Previously on CTO Talks.
We went through Python deprecation 2.7. So we had to move all our code bases up to 3, and that was not as easy as I anticipated. So I had to sell that to the rest of the C-suite, and that's a very technical discussion. We need to do it.
In terms of Python, I think it becomes pretty obvious. It's gonna lose support, or it's gonna become legacy, or you won't be able to find talent. That's the first place.
Yes,
yeah?
that's a good...
First question from a candidate: which version of Angular are you using?
Yeah, but Angular changes every weekend. So.
Exactly, but that's the point.
Sharing their experience from tech leaders to tech leaders. This is CTO Talks.
So do you see a threat in AI being used by hackers?
Absolutely. I believe it's already being used.
Mm-hmm.
I am a big fan of Linux, and I've already seen a number of new entries into the Kali distro that has some kind of AI.
No kidding.
So I don't know how well they work. I don't know. They're all community. It's not the official distro, but it won't be time. It won't be long before.
But these were some commits, yes? You suspect being written by AI or?
No. Tools that are
Tools.
harnessing. You can build your own little cluster inside the machine itself, so that you don't actually have to reach out to OpenAI, which has all of this kind of fencing around it or something. So you're actually able to avoid all of that. I want to protect myself from this kind of exploit. What's the code that I should put in my heuristic scanning software?
Oh my God.
Exactly. So I think it's already an issue. And I think that CTOs should definitely make at least a list of what the attack vectors that they have open, and then at least work on those ones. I think many companies think that they're not at risk because they don't process any personally identifiable information, or they don't have credit card information. That does not mean that they're...
It's not always about stealing data.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's just a matter of messing with your system, right? Or your system being used as a...
I was about to get to that. Exactly.
Okay, transition vector to get somewhere else.
Exactly. So, I mean, if your system gets assimilated into a bot army that ends up doing something terrible, you're going to be on the hook for it because it's your name there as the head of tech. You know?
So, I mean, again, for bigger company, that would be a no-brainer. But for a smaller company, given that, for instance, myself, I don't feel competent enough in this space in order to make decisions on my own. What should I do? Yeah, I would go for an outsourcing. I would get an external support, but otherwise...
I think there are a number of automated systems, even before AI became big, that you can do a pen test on your own system. They're barely cost effective, and you can just point it at all your infrastructure and it'll give you a list of what's open. At least that's a start. You know, what is my exposure?
Okay.
Once you have that, if you're pretty locked up tight and everything, then maybe you don't need to hire a big expensive consultant. Maybe your next hire, you would add also having some security background could be an option to go. But if you're lit up all over the board, you may want to look at a slightly better solution.
Okay. So I think like a slow summary. So in terms of the roles and responsibilities we talked about, it's like recruitment, technical leadership, right?
Yes.
People leadership, slightly we touched. Team leadership, cybersecurity, sales, or the let's say collaboration with management or a C-suite. Is there anything we would like to add to this point?
I'd like to touch a little bit on company culture.
Yes. So
you had a discussion that touched a little bit on this. I think that tech companies have a very different way of building the company culture, and that's because us nerds are weird. Us nerds are amazing.
Of course, yes, no doubt with that.
So I think it's very important for the CTO or the technical leadership to have a role in how that culture develops. And I don't think that any leader can absolutely control culture, and I think that's the wrong method to go, but you can definitely join it and influence it in some manner. And by that I mean, I can give an example. I'm going to throw my current company under the bus here.
So maybe we'll beep out the
okay,
name
I'll
of
say
the
it
company.
anyway. Yeah. So when I got there was no code review. There wasn't even, we weren't even using Git the way it should be used with proper merge requests and so forth. So I noticed a lot of almost aggression when it came to trying to force that we need to be more collaborative
From the team
code.
or
From the team.
Okay.
Well, we've done it like this forever, or, well,
I know.
so and so told me to do it as fast as possible, so I don't want to sit and wait for a code review. Every type of excuse came back
yes.
there. So I had to go a very different route then, and I like to call it guerrilla leadership, when you're actually leading from the bottom. So coming in as, okay, I'm going to do a feature,
And you review this.
and I would like some help reviewing it. And I can still code, but it takes me a lot longer, and my code is not as, my team is always much better than I am. So of course they picked it apart, and this here and that here, and don't repeat yourself, and which was great, because it was shit code to start with. And
a lot of reviews.
and the review, and I welcomed even people who were being mean, saying, well, you could have said that nicer, but good point. So, and then, of course, the next time it just started kind of growing. Somebody else said, I have a big feature here. I'm not sure if things are working. Can somebody also look at mine? And then soon it came down to saying, hey, this is actually working out. Should be good. Should we put like some kind of a policy on this? And it's not me saying this is the way it must be. And now people who join our company are surprised at the amount of constructive criticism they get for their features.
So that's very interesting. So, however, it's all about the change. The question from my end is like, how many people you lost on the way?
I built the team 6 times.
Okay, no, because
okay, from that change, I don't know, maybe half.
Exactly, and I think it's always about implementing or applying your culture, and you will always have people. So I think like it's quite important, so that people's personal goals are congruent with the company's goals, or you as a leader, right? And probably most of these people, they didn't care about code reviews, the code quality. Maybe they wanted to spend like 8 to 4 p.m. And just go home and do something, right? So with change, at least my opinion is that you need to accept that you're gonna lose people on the way, right? So,
but unfortunately, as you said, if it's not that, it's going to be something else. I don't think code review specifically is going to be the big culling of a company, but you're absolutely right that when you do introduce change, but you can't be afraid of it. I mean, leading from a point of, I need this team here, and if I don't have it, I can't do my job. I mean, that's...
So again, it comes down to what I said previously. I believe it's all about your integrity. Yeah. So that what you believe in, what you believe that works, and maybe not enforcing it, yeah, but doing your best to apply the change where it is, right? But accepting that not everyone shares your vision, right? But it's all great with guerrilla leadership. Yeah. I love it. But imagine a more complex scenario, yeah? You're coming to a bigger company, and it's also about the leadership. Let's say an industry that's not that very much or falls behind with technology. Like for me, it's insurance. It's like in my opinion, they always lag behind any other industry with adoption, any kind of innovation or new tool sets. And you're coming to a company. And you see that, okay, it doesn't work with the vision you have for how your engineering team should work. And on the other hand, let's imagine a situation where you have silos in the company, and you're like me, a huge agile fan. And then in order for you to be able to apply agile, it's not only you need to convince your engineering team to that, right? But sometimes you need to break the silos. And how you do that, yeah? So
Well, if we start from where to effectively do your job, you can't be scared to, unfortunately, lose some people. I think that's always a good place to start.
But then you have like the step number one, convince the leadership that you, for instance, you need to involve business into the product creation, right?
But I mean, there's a trick that we play with our kids. We try to make them think it was their idea. So this is something.
I hope your bosses won't hear it. This is called manipulation.
So introducing something, and of course you don't want to be fraudulent about it, and they know exactly what you're doing, and the hanky's behind your hand, but presenting something as almost like a team workshop and saying, here's a what if, and here are the benefits, and here are the cons, right?
Okay.
And you get buy-in from the team on at least planning it. I think that's a really good start, because then you're at least going to get a temperature of your team. If a majority of the team say, hey, that's really good, we'd like to try it. And of course, you're going to have some people saying, no, we're going to lose time and, so forth. At least you can then strategize that way. If the whole team is against it, it doesn't really matter what your next plan is. That's an uphill battle right there. So either you have to, turn around and actually be a dictator for a little while, or
not a dictator. I think it's really, we discussed it very briefly, but I think it's a matter of how big impact you can make, right? So it's a matter of convincing people the sales skills, because you need to be able to sell your ideas not only to your team but to the C-suite. And I think that's especially for the C-suite historically it's been quite a obstacle for CTOs that they were never in the boards of directors, so they couldn't let's say impact the strategical decisions in the company. But it's changing, because I think that everyone notices that now, like, IT is not just delivering what is being ordered, but it's becoming crucial for even non-technological companies, right? But it's also a matter of convincing other C-suites to sell your ideas in terms of technology, right? Adoption or ways of working.
I think another really good strategy is finding a way to unite the entire tech team in some kind of way. Tech teams are clanist by nature, front end versus back end, Java guys versus Python guys. There's always going to be this, whether it's in jest or whether it's actual, DevOps screwed up. No, it was the code was, So finding a way to at least at some point saying, yes, but we're all going in the same direction, right? So what are we trying to solve as a company? How do we win together? That's all of us together, including...
How do you do this?
Exactly. So that has to also be not always about work. So I see some crazy events that some companies have, and I'm sure there's usually a way how they're doing it, but sometimes I wonder, like, how are they actually building this into a team building scenario, and not just, we have an extra budget, so let's fly everybody skiing for the sake of skiing. Well, okay, why don't you make teams and, problem solve on the way or something like this? Because the more you can actually do that in the office, out of the office, in some kind of hybrid, the more people are going to feel as a team. So then when you do present something that is contentious, you can keep it saying, this is how we're going to win together because we're losing right now, and then kind of...
So I'm going to disagree here. So it gets down to relations. Okay. I think I briefly touched it with Hassan, but the information I got from the psychologists we cooperate with is that relations are important to break the first barrier. And especially, like, I was doing many international projects, and what I noticed is what helped me a lot is meeting people I work with in person. Okay. Yeah, so that's I think as a first step, it's really the key in order to work efficiently.
But then, if I can interrupt, wouldn't that be different from the size of the company then? Because if you're 5 people, you're already meeting everybody.
But I was just saying that people you work with the most, yeah. So that you interact. So I was very often in like architectural roles. So what always helped me a lot is meeting other architects in the company in person, right? As a first step. However, the research shows that relations are not the key for the teams to have a great teamwork. Yeah, so apparently what is more important is the first thing, gathering people around some kind of goals or ideas that they first of all understand, and the goals are congruent with their personal goals. Yeah, so and then at least from my experience, observations, it's a matter of how you structure the teams and how you define the goals. Yeah. So for instance, front end versus backend. If you put front end devs, backend devs, and DevOps in one team, create a cross-functional team, and have a goal. You guys deliver, I don't know, payments in our system. Yeah. It's their goal, and there is nothing else. Yeah. So and you decide how you deliver it, right? So you would probably avoid this this situation. And the other thing that I've read and heard is important is that people know each other in terms of their skills. Yeah, so they know what each member in the team can and cannot deliver, but unbiased knowledge, meaning that we don't judge someone cannot do something. But
how do you collect that then?
So in terms of hard skills, it's pretty simple. Yeah, so because by doing code reviews, people can easily and very quickly know what others are good at or what their deficiencies are. And very quickly, or during the interviews, we know how to do this. But what is also very important, these are soft skills or like personal traits. Yeah. And what I've heard works very well is kind of some kind of psychological test. So people know their strong and weak sides, and they share it among the team so that they know, okay, I know, for instance, this person cannot focus on one thing for a longer period of time. So let's get in like smaller tasks.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So then if we go back to then the role of the CTO, that is a very HR part of the role.
Exactly. So it's all about people leadership, but should this kind of HR responsibilities be on a CTO, or should it be taken care by an HR? What's your opinion?
I don't know if I have an opinion on that. I think if I look at my personal experience, if there was no one else doing it, I would do it because I think it's very important. I think personal reviews are very important. I think we all have the need to be validated somehow, or at least to be given feedback of where we can improve.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's not being provided, then if you are a small company as a CTO, that's a skill you have to learn, because personal reviews can go sideways very quickly.
Of course. And that's another skill. Yeah. So giving the reviews in the right way, and being a mentor. Yeah. So especially when you grow a team, or if you have a small team, I think it's part of being like, people leader, right? And I would say that from my past experience, that's always been an issue. I mean, like throughout my professional experience, I've never been given, in my opinion, proper feedback and proper amount of mentorship.
Yes. That's an issue when you're the CTO. You're expected to give it, but you rarely get it.
Rarely. Yeah.
So it's and you have to ask for it, and who do you ask from it for? The board, or the rest of your C-suite, or you ask for an external company to come in
Mm-hmm.
and provide those. I mean, it's important for personal growth also to know where we can improve.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I was just wondering, because this feedback thing, whether it's not a cultural thing, meaning like in Poland, there's a huge issue with sharing feedback in the first place, and the other about receiving feedback. Yeah, because sometimes it can be painful. Yes. So if you are not self-confident enough, so understanding the I would say the goal of the person who gives you the feedback, that it's not about you, bugging you. It's for you to improve. And I know, for instance, that like Anglo-Saxons, like UK and Americans, the feedback is quite natural for them, right? But I'm not sure if you had a chance. But and what I really love, especially working with guys from the UK, is that their feedback is a natural part of the process. Yeah, and it's never with a lot of emotions. Yeah, it's almost emotionless, meaning that it's a tool that you can use in order to improve.
So how do you deal with it then locally if it's not as natural?
We try to let's say adopt the best standards. No, I think it's like also about the culture, yeah, how it propagates. If we work with American or UK companies, it becomes natural at some point. Yeah, because you start to understand that there is nothing wrong about it. And for instance, code reviews can be very often really painful unless you understand that it's just a matter to improve not only the code but yourself, your skills, and this is the only way for you to become a better developer, right? Yeah, for sure. How about Sweden?
Well, Swedes are
pretty close to
exactly. Yes, we don't even like to talk to our neighbors. Well, I've heard. I haven't lived in Sweden for most of my life, so I still kind of feel a bit of a foreigner. But I think, well, I mean, in our company, we're always like, I'm the only one or two of the Swedes that are there, and I'm not even Swedish, so it's usually been pretty easy. Mm-hmm. I think I've been very blessed in that I've been given that skill that I practiced most of my life. So giving feedback and taking feedback it comes fairly naturally to me. And the feedback that we have to give, or that we do get to give, is structured in a way so that they feel like we're trying to help them self-adjust almost. Exactly. So it's not like you need to do this, but like, we've noticed this is the fallout to it, what can we do? Or how can we support you so that this doesn't happen anymore? Or I mean,
if you explain, like with the kids, if you explain why you forbid something here, or you make you prevent them from doing something, they start to understand. Yeah, so it's easier to show this kind of feedback. Yeah.
I think it's important to have it as a company initiative, and not just the CTO is saying, hey, mm-hmm. This is an issue. For example, if somebody really is falling behind on what we find often is like Git practice, not knowing how to rebase properly, or mm-hmm. Some of those things. So instead of saying, hey, that's really sloppy, you're taking too long, you should fix your branch, don't just clone a new one and not learn how to do it. Instead saying, okay, well, we have a program where you can buy a Udemy course or something, and I recommend maybe I noticed mm-hmm. that you're struggling with Git a little bit. How about we buy you one of those courses there, and we'll give you some time on paid time, half an hour at the mm-hmm. end of the week or something. Just go through a few of the chapters there. So it's not really so much you're doing bad, fix it, but more like, how can we help support mm-hmm. you?
And how about pair programming? What's your take on that?
How long do we have?
Very briefly.
I think pair programming has its place, mm-hmm. but it should not be treated as the one-all.
Okay. But in this case, for instance, someone has issues or struggling with rebasing. Yeah? Can you get a more senior person? Yeah, you sit down, you do this with me.
Yeah, I guess that could be done.
It could be also this part of this mentorship.
Yeah.
That your even senior devs could start getting this skill. Yeah.
We do almost like a monthly tech talk, and many times it's on Git, and introduce things, lazy Git at the command line or something, some of these tools to just drill it into people.
It's funny, I mean, it's maybe not for this talk, but I am still surprised how Git, being so complex and so many people having issues with that, how it really like took over the everything in terms of versioning the source code. It's like I would suggest that the simplest solution would win, but Git is extremely difficult to understand.
Yeah, I think so. Yes, it's difficult to understand, but once you get it, and then you're fast at it. And
Okay, I think we should be slowly wrapping up.
Okay. I have a closing question for you. Actually, I have two,
Should.
if we have time.
We do.
Okay. Number one, what has been one of the biggest challenges for you as a CTO?
Oh, I think giving feedback.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's. I still struggle with it. It doesn't come natural to me. I think it's out of all the responsibilities and skills we've talked about. I think it's still a thing for me.
Yeah.
For you?
Biggest challenge, I think, has been embracing the politics.
that's
It's. I know it's necessary, but sometimes I almost feel like it could be offloaded. But yes.
I know. Especially for people who are engineers, scientific brains, you can get lost very easily in its, connections and soft skills. All right.
I had one more question. If you think back on the CTOs that you've reported to, what's one trait that has stood out to you from a good CTO?
I think for me, the culture has always been very important. So anyone who could, first of all, lead by example, like being integral, doing what they're saying about, being able to explain their thoughts easily and convince others. I think this is something that I've always valued in my for previous bosses.
Yeah.
How about you?
There's one particular individual that it really struck me from early in my career, how he knew everybody in the tech team personally.
Okay.
By name, their birthday, and it was like, we're part of a team and I know you and you know me, and everybody felt like they were part of that team.
And it's actually something I really suck at. So I'm not able to remember names. I am able to remember, but I have a friend who remembers everyone he meets. He remembers how many children they have, their wives and their kids' names, including their year of birth. So also the age. And I was like, how can you remember this? And it's like for the whole team, he had 100 people under him, and he remembered everything. And I agree that it's an incredibly important skill to build relations with your team, and not only probably with your clients too, or with the C-suite. I think that's it. I'm not sure if I should summarize anyhow, but I would say that at least to myself, the conclusion is that it's not a simple role if you consider how many skills you need to have in order to succeed in this, right?
Yes. To be an effective leader.
And also at C-suite, like a director, right? All right, Erik, many thanks for coming over.
My pleasure.
A great experience and great discussion. So I hope that our listeners will get something out of it too. And to the next time. Bye.
Sharing their experience from tech leaders to tech leaders. This is CTO Talks.